She tells herself she's over you. She posts like she's moved on. She laughs like she never lost a moment of sleep over you. But beneath that carefully curated image, her mind is anything but free. Here's what most won't say out loud. When a woman truly felt something real, she doesn't just forget, not even when she tries. And if you've been silent, not the kind of silence built on bitterness or games, but the kind rooted in self-respect, growth, and emotional discipline, then you've already won a battle most men never even knew they were fighting. Let's break down why she still can't get you out of her head, even if she's trying everything she can to act like you're a distant memory. 1. The illusion of moving on. She may look like she's thriving, smiling wider, posting more, chasing new experiences, surrounding herself with noise and novelty. But that's all it is. Noise. Distractions dressed up as healing. Because forgetting isn't healing. And moving on isn't the same as letting go. She's not healed. She's running. Running from a shadow that still lives in the quiet corners of her mind. Your shadow. Maybe she's out every weekend. Maybe there's a new name in her phone. Maybe her stories are filled with proof that she's over it. But deep down, she knows. Those moments are empty. Temporary highs to mask a deeper truth. Because at night, when everything goes quiet and the crowd disappears, that's when it hits her. Not the chaos, not the arguments, but the peace. The way you listened. The way you stayed calm when she was a storm. The safety she felt in your presence. The kind of safety you can't fake or find in a rebound. This is where Stoicism becomes your greatest advantage. Not just over the situation, but over yourself. You're not chasing. You're not proving. You're not clinging to what was. You've accepted the truth, not out of weakness, but strength. You didn't hold on. You didn't reach out. You didn't give her the ego boost she expected, because you're no longer a man who chooses prideful pursuit. You're a man who chooses peace. And that quiet detachment, that emotional self-mastery, it lingers. Now, every forced smile, every caption about good vibes only, every night out, it's a mask. And when that mask slips, you're there, not physically, but in memory. Because in the end, it wasn't the gifts, it wasn't the trips, it wasn't the highlight reels, it was your presence, your depth, your ability to remain grounded when everything else was chaos. And that's something her mind can't replace, and something her heart can't forget. Chapter. You were the lesson. Part 2. Emotional echoes, it's in the silence. When the world gets quiet. When the dopamine fades, the crowd disperses, and the phone screen goes dark. That's when your memory shows up. Not by invitation, but with undeniable presence. She replays it all. The last words, the final look. The moment she still felt safe in someone else's energy. Because silence? It's not just emptiness, it's clarity. It strips away the distractions. It silences the justifications. And what's left? Truth. Unfiltered, unavoidable. In that silence, it's not just your absence that echoes. It's your presence. The way you were there. Steady. Solid. The kind of presence that didn't flinch when she broke down. That didn't try to fix or control. Just understand. Now, in the quiet, that emotional echo grows louder. She may not say a word, she may even convince herself she's fine. But inside, you're playing in the background like a song she can't turn off. You're not just a memory in her mind, you're in her nervous system, your calm, your patience, your grounded energy. Those left a mark deeper than she expected. From a Stoic lens, your silence was never about punishment. It wasn't passive, it was power. You weren't ignoring her. You were honouring yourself, refusing to beg for a place you once held with quiet strength. As Epictetus said, We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. She once judged your silence as weakness, until it became a mirror for her own chaos. While you moved forward, not out of revenge, but out of discipline, she stayed stuck, searching, trying to feel something that could match what she had with you. And no matter how many messages she leaves unanswered, no matter how many breadcrumbs she drops, your silence still speaks. And it says, I am no longer where you left me. That realization, it hits the hardest. Because silence, when held with strength, doesn't just create distance, it creates reflection. Now, she's the one sitting with the echo. Before we move on, I want you to sit with that idea. Your silence isn't a gap, it's a mirror. And in that mirror, she doesn't just see what's missing. She sees what she lost. Not attention, not noise, but grounded presence. Real security. The kind of energy that doesn't have to chase to be felt. That's what lingers. That's what echoes. If that resonated with you, even a little, drop a comment. Let me know what part hit the deepest. Or if you just want to keep it simple, type, silence reveals everything. And if you're finding value in this message, hit that like button. It helps this reach someone else who might need to hear it. Let's keep going. Chapter 3. Your absence created space for reflection. Your absence didn't just remove you from her life. It created space. And now that space echoes louder than your words ever could. Because absence isn't just the lack of presence. It's a mirror, a reflection that reveals more than conversations ever will. At first she may have felt relief, freedom even. She told herself this was what she needed. That space was good for her. She convinced herself she was moving forward, but time has a way of stripping away illusions. And as the days pass, that once comforting space has turned into a kind of haunting stillness, one that doesn't just remind her of you, it reminds her of who she was when she had you. Because you weren't just a boyfriend, you were an anchor. You didn't fix everything, but you created a space where she could unravel and still feel seen. You didn't control her emotions. You grounded them. Now that you're gone, that emotional sanctuary, it's closed, not out of spite, but in calm acceptance. And what's left behind is reflection, not the kind that comes from closure talks or deep conversations, but the kind that creeps in late at night, in the quiet, when no one's watching. That's when she remembers. Your steady voice when things got tense. Your patience when she lost hers. Your silence, not to punish, but to protect your own peace. And that's when she realizes she's not just missing you. She's missing the version of herself that existed with you, the one who felt safe, held, emotionally regulated. Because a man who values his peace doesn't chase. He doesn't demand attention. His very presence speaks volumes. And when he walks away, his absence becomes the lesson. Your absence is now her teacher. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to prove. It forces reflection on its own. From a Stoic perspective, this is strength in its highest form. Not reacting, not reaching, not reminding anyone of your worth. Letting time and stillness reveal what your presence once gave freely. As Seneca once wrote, it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And you're done wasting time proving your value to someone who only recognized it in hindsight. That's what sets you apart. You don't weaponize silence. You embody it. You let your absence prove your presence. And over time, she begins to see the difference between someone who simply filled her time and someone who once filled her soul. Chapter 4. The Unforgettable. calm you carried. You were calm, steady, unshaken in a world that often rewards chaos, overreaction, and emotional impulsivity. That kind of composure, it's rare, and rare is unforgettable. She may have been used to drama, the highs and lows, the guilt trips, the games, the grand gestures, but you didn't feed that cycle. You brought her stillness, a kind of quiet that doesn't beg to be noticed, but lingers long after the noise has faded. Even when it ended, you didn't chase. You didn't fall apart. You didn't let your ego take over in some desperate attempt to prove your worth. You simply accepted it, with grace, with presence. And that's what unsettles her now, not your silence, but the calm within it. Because that kind of calm, it speaks to something deeper, something she didn't fully understand back then, but can't seem to stop thinking about now. It wasn't cold. It wasn't passive. It was the quiet strength of a man who knows who he is, a man who refuses to lose himself just to be understood by someone who wasn't ready to meet him there. That kind of power? It can't be manipulated. It can't be baited with silence or pulled back with breadcrumbs. It doesn't fold under pressure. She thought you'd break. She thought you'd react. That eventually, like others, you'd come running back. But you didn't. You held the line. And that's what makes you unforgettable. Because while she may try to replace the relationship, she can't replace the experience. She can't replace the way you made her feel safe without ever needing to raise your voice. The emotional control, the grounded energy. It left a mark far deeper than she expected. Stoicism teaches us we are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them. And you embodied that. You didn't let the breakup define you. You didn't measure your worth by her reactions. You responded not with anger or anxiety, but with stillness, clarity, and self-respect. Now, that stillness, that's the loudest thing in her life. Because once a woman experiences a man who holds his frame, who remains composed while she's caught in emotional storms, that memory doesn't fade. It lingers. It becomes the quiet comparison in every interaction that follows. True power doesn't lie in how loud you are. It's in how still you remain when the world tries to shake you. And that's what left the deepest mark. So let that sink in. Anyone can react. Anyone can spiral, beg, or lash out when emotions run high. But to remain composed, to hold your frame when everything inside you wants to break, that's rare. And that kind of inner strength doesn't just leave an impression on her, it becomes part of you. So ask yourself, are you proud of how you held the line? Because if you are, you've already won. She might forget your words, but she'll never forget how you made her feel. You were her safe place in a world that constantly spun too fast. When everything around her felt chaotic, uncertain, loud, you were the steady hand, the calm voice, the presence that didn't flinch when she unraveled. You didn't try to fix her. You didn't judge her. You held her emotionally, patiently, fully. And now, that stability is gone. And the absence of it is louder than she ever expected. At first, she may have welcomed the space. She may have convinced herself she needed something new. More excitement, a different energy, a fresh start. But slowly, quietly, the world reminded her. What you gave was rare. Because feeling safe around someone, that's not common. That's not easily replaced. That's not something you stumble across every day. Suddenly, the little things start hitting her. How you listened without trying to win. How your calm made her storms feel survivable. How your patience gave her room to breathe, even when she didn't have the words to explain what she was feeling. You see, a stoic man doesn't try to be her thrill. He becomes her peace. And ironically, peace is often the thing people take for granted until it's no longer there. Because now she's surrounded by attention, maybe even affection, but it feels different. The people in her orbit now, they talk over her, they minimize what she feels. They make her perform for the care you gave so freely. That's when it clicks. Emotional safety isn't loud. It isn't performative. It's felt, deep, quiet, grounding. You didn't need to dominate the room to make her feel secure. You did it with presence, with calm, with that unspoken strength that said, even if everything falls apart, I won't. That kind of energy, it's not just attractive, it's unforgettable. And now the contrast is clear. Because while she may have thought she needed new, what she really needed was something real. And here's the thing, it wasn't about what you gave her. It was about what you didn't take. You didn't drain her. You didn't amplify the chaos. You gave her space to just be, to fall apart without fear, to be vulnerable without penalty. And now that space, that emotional sanctuary, is locked behind a door she can't reopen. Because peace, it's underrated until it's gone. Once a woman experiences the presence of a man who lives by principles, not pressure, who leads with calm instead of control, every connection that comes after will feel loud, forced, and unsteady. Because you weren't just a chapter in her story, you were the calm between storms. And once a woman truly knows what that feels like, every moment without it becomes a reminder of what she lost. She doesn't forget what it felt like. Not because of drama, not because of noise, but because of your absence, deliberate, composed, and complete. While others played the game, push and pull, attention-seeking posts, chasing breadcrumbs, pretending not to care, you didn't engage. You bowed out, gracefully, quietly, without theatrics. No cryptic captions, no attempts to be seen, no half-hearted texts just to keep a presence in her mind. You simply stepped away, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. Because the strongest move is often no move at all. Silence rooted in dignity isn't a void, it's a mirror. It doesn't scream, "Look at me." It says, "Look at yourself." She expected resistance. She expected to keep you orbiting, to reel you in when she felt like it, then push you away when she didn't. But instead, you gave her something rare. Non-reaction, not coldness, clarity. That kind of energy, it throws off anyone who's used to chaos. You didn't match her highs and lows. You didn't validate the pattern, you broke it. Not by forcing an ending, but by choosing to no longer participate. From a Stoic lens, that's real power, not manipulation, not revenge, just peace over pettiness. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And that's exactly what you did. You didn't retaliate. You didn't beg for closure. You didn't perform to be heard. You simply rose above it. And that left a deeper impression than any outburst ever could. Because now, while others still chase the highs and lows, she sits with the quiet question, why didn't he fight for me? But the truth is, you did fight for your peace, for your principles, for your self-worth, and you won. You didn't walk away because you didn't care. You walked away because you refused to betray yourself just to stay in the picture. That kind of exit, it's not just a silence, it's a statement, a powerful, lasting presence in absence. So now, every time she checks her phone and sees nothing, no message, no likes, no reach outs, it hits, not because you're gone, but because your energy still lingers without making a sound. Let that settle. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can leave behind is nothing at all. no message, no reaction, just discipline, just respect for yourself. So ask yourself, are you walking away to prove something to her or to prove something to yourself? If this message hits somewhere deep, feel free to share your thoughts, or just type, "My silence is strength," and let the message speak louder than anything words could say. It's not just memories that linger, it's everything. A song, a street corner, a familiar scent, and suddenly, boom, you're back in her mind. Not because you tried to stay there, not because you forced your presence, but because your energy became woven into her emotional memory. When a man shows up with intention, with calmness, with consistency, when he brings peace into a world full of noise, he doesn't just pass through a woman's life. He leaves an imprint. You didn't leave behind drama or chaos. You left behind something far more profound, stability, and now, anything even remotely connected to that presence, even something as simple as a song that played while you two laughed, becomes a trigger, a spark that reignites the emotional contrast. She may be with someone else now. She may act like she's moved on. But when he reacts differently, when he doesn't stay calm like you did, when he snaps instead of listening like you once did, that's when it hits her. That's when the comparison starts. And once it's there, it's hard to ignore. You didn't leave behind a scar, you left behind a standard. And that's something far more difficult to move on from. A scar might fade over time, but a standard, it stays in her mind. It reshapes how she sees men moving forward. It filters every new interaction, even when she doesn't want it to. This is what happens when you operate with emotional discipline, when your love isn't chaotic, but conscious, when you gave her something she didn't even realize she craved, emotional safety. And once she felt that, it became her baseline for what real should feel like. From a Stoic viewpoint, this is the quiet power of a man who governs himself. You didn't manipulate emotions. You modeled maturity. You didn't try to own her. You inspired her. And now that energy, that presence, it follows her into every new connection, every quiet moment, every unexpected memory. She doesn't miss the attention. She misses the atmosphere, the way your energy made her feel more regulated, more grounded, more herself. Because when someone feels seen, understood, and safe in your presence, forgetting you isn't just hard, it's impossible. Chapter 8. Her ego fights what her heart remembers. She tells her friend she doesn't care. She shrugs it off, acting like it meant nothing. She rewrites the story in her mind to protect her pride. She convinces herself it was just a phase, that she's better off now, but deep down, her heart knows better. Because the heart doesn't follow pride, it follows impact. And your impact? It's still there. Not because you begged to be remembered, not because you left a trail of drama or desperation, but because of the way you showed up, because of the way you led with presence, instead of pressure, because your energy spoke louder than your words. That kind of emotional imprint, it stays with her. She thought someone new could fill the gap. That fresh attention, new conversations, surface-level chemistry would distract her from what she lost. At first, it seemed like it worked. The excitement, the novelty, the illusion of moving on. But eventually, the high wore off. Because what she found wasn't lasting. It was temporary pleasure, not true presence. What you gave her wasn't just attention. It wasn't performative. It wasn't built on games or emotional highs and lows. It was peace. The kind of peace that calms the nervous system, not excites the ego. The kind of presence that doesn't demand attention, but hold space naturally. And now, no matter how many dates she goes on, no matter how many times she convinces herself he's different, she keeps running into the same wall. He's not you. Because what you brought wasn't about trying hard, it was about being whole. While other men try to impress with flash or force, you led with calm, with depth. You listened when she was chaotic. You stayed when she was unsure. You didn't try to fix her emotions. You created a container strong enough to hold them. That's not common. That's not easily replaced. And now, every time someone new shows up in her life, she doesn't just compare, she feels the contrast. Your absence became a standard, a measuring stick. And the more she tries to recreate what she had with you, the more painfully clear it becomes. It can't be duplicated, because it wasn't about what you did. It was about how you made her feel. The Stoic man doesn't compete. He creates contrast. You never tried to prove you were better. You simply were. Not louder, not flashier, just real. Here's the part that stings the most. Yes, she remembers the laughs, the late night talks, the way you made her feel without even trying. You're not forgotten, you're unforgettable. But now you're no longer available, not emotionally, not mentally, not energetically, because you didn't just walk away. You evolved. You outgrew the version of yourself she once had access to. The man who may have tolerated uncertainty, confusion, or inconsistency. That man no longer exists. In his place stands a man who chose clarity over chaos. A man who knows that peace isn't just something you protect, it's something you become. That's the part she didn't see coming. By the time she realized what you truly meant, you had already shifted. You didn't wait around hoping she'd come back with new intentions. You grew with new standards, quietly, intentionally. You healed. But more than that, you leveled up. Not for her, but for you. Now, when she reaches out, if she ever does, it won't hit the same, because your energy has changed. The emotional door she once walked through is closed. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. You don't need her to see your value anymore, because you see it. And that's what makes all the difference. From a Stoic perspective, this is what true growth looks like. As Seneca once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself. He is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." And through the silence, through the distance, you didn't just survive. You proved yourself to yourself. Yes, she remembers. But now she's remembering someone who no longer belongs to her world. That realization, that's what cuts deeper than any silence or goodbye ever could. Because you didn't just leave the relationship, you left behind the man who once needed it. As we conclude today's deep dive into the realms of emotional memory and the quiet echoes that remain long after the noise has faded, it becomes clear. The real battle isn't about holding on to the past, it's about mastering ourselves in the present. Today, we explored how your grounded silence, deliberate absence, and unwavering calmness have a far-reaching impact, one that words can rarely capture. Through your disciplined stoicism, you've shown not just yourself, but also her, that real strength lies not in clinging, but in letting go gracefully. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." It's this strength that has made your presence unforgettable, your absence impactful, and your peace a lesson that continues to teach, even in your silence. Your journey serves as a testament to the idea that sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is nothing at all. It's not about absence. It's about presence. Even in absence, It's about the emotional and mental fortitude that turns silence into a mirror, reflecting not just what's lost, but what's gained through self-respect and inner peace. If today's message resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of this discussion struck a chord with you? Did you find strength in silence, or did the idea of presence in absence echo within you? Let's continue the conversation in the comments below. And if these words weighed on you, simply type, "My silence speaks louder." If you found value in today's talk, don't forget to hit the like button. It helps spread these vital lessons to others navigating their own silent battles. Be sure to subscribe for more insights and check out the recommended videos popping up on your screen right now to keep growing and learning with us. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, in the stillness of absence, the echoes of your growth reverberate the loudest. Keep moving forward, not with noise, but with purpose.